dancers that, okay, yeah, it's great to have a presence on social media, but what if Facebook goes away? Right. Not that it's going to, right? But you don't want to build. They can easily snatch. And I've had friends where they've lost so much on YouTube. I have a friend actually that built, oh my goodness, and even before YouTube was really even popular for dance, and even before social media blew up with dance, he was one of the pioneers that really just had that already started of a lot of social engagement and all that kind of thing. But one day he lost, I think, like 70,000 subscribers. Just like with no reason, nothing. Wow. And so, so there's stuff like that you can't control if you're using a free platform. But if you own your domain, you own the hosting and that kind of thing, that all the technical, that kind of stuff where I understand if you're an artist, sometimes you don't want to think about that kind of stuff, but that's important. So it's important to have your own platform too. So then that's another thing. It's a whole nother discussion. No.
Right, definitely. And and you're definitely right because, I've got a few friends who are photographers, and when they put some certain things up on Instagram takes those down or takes away things because they don't agree with their content. And or I can't think of that. There was a famous, it was like YouTube that was out for a while, but it gave like small 8-second vignettes, and I can't think of that what it is, but there were some people who got really famous on, I don't think it's called, not Venmo, but they got really famous on there, and then suddenly that platform just was taken down a year ago, so all that audience they had built up is now gone.
Yes.
Because no one's going to that anymore because it doesn't exist, and they didn't own any of it.
Right.
So you talked about earlier you didn't think you'd be getting into speaking, but now that's what you're doing more. How did that evolve?
Oh boy. So I think what happened is, I don't know exactly. You know what? I did see a Facebook ad for this conference called Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. And when I started podcasting, I had already gone to several different business and self-development conferences that I learned so much from each one. I totally believe in live events for the education, the connection, and it gives you another perspective, another experience. So I saw this ad and I thought, and I've always been, Yuri, since I started back dancing again, I'm going to continue to push myself out of my comfort zone because I don't want to have any more regrets, and I want to see what happens. I fall on my face. Okay, so what? I learned something. So I submitted to speak at this conference last year thinking, okay, let's see what happens. Let me put myself out there because that's not my goal to speak, but let's see what happens. So I got accepted and I thought, oh gosh, this is happening. So so that's how it happened. And then when I got there, it was really cool because it was really cool to meet other podcasters because I had not gone to a podcasting specific event. And one thing that I love about podcasting is that you can podcast about anything. And so I met different podcasters who the subject matter I would have never thought. And also people that have been doing it for over a decade, which I thought it hasn't even been like really popular until, recently, not even that recently, but wow, like you've been podcasting when people didn't even really know what podcasting was. And so to meet people like that. And, so when I got up there and we had it was like a TEDx style talk. So I was able to talk about my journey of how I got into podcasting and that whole process that we talked a little bit about in the beginning. And I thought, this is kind of cool because I was able to, because I had people come up to me afterward telling me about their dance experience. And I thought, oh my goodness, these people, I related to them on certain levels, even though their podcast was different and their subject matter was different and we come from different backgrounds. We connected on dance of all things. And so I was surprised that, oh, well, I did this and I thought, oh, you know what? I can get back into dance too. And I was just thinking about taking a dance class and the commonality that connectedness that I thought, oh my goodness, I could maybe do this. And it scared me and I thought, oh yeah, okay, good. It's out of my comfort zone. I'm going to continue pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So that's how it started. And it took me a while to admit, oh, it's kind of weird for me to think, oh, I want to be a speaker because like I said, I hated the sound of my voice. I was so self-conscious about so many things. And now I'm getting over it. So the podcast has helped with that. Sure. And now, this week coming up, I get to go back to this wonderful conference. And this time I actually got asked back, and I have 30 minutes now to speak and teach about podcasting that I love, dance, business, all the stuff that I've been through. And I feel so humbled and honored, but scared and excited at the same time. So,
well, that's great. Congratulations. So, what are the details on your speaking event then?
Well, it's called Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference, and it's in Swedesboro, New Jersey. And if anyone wants to attend that's in that area, I believe there's still time. And if they send me a direct message, either on Facebook or on my site or whatever way you can contact me, then I believe I can actually get some tickets for you. So otherwise, you can always go to their website too. It's under Mid-Atlantic Podcast Conference. But lots of different podcasters, different subjects, some very influential podcasters there that will be there speaking.
Okay, great. So because you're going to then be speaking about your podcasting journey, what is the one thing that has helped you the most in your podcasting journey right now?
The one thing that has helped me the most.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that has helped me the most is to learn to ask myself the right questions. Like, what season am I in? What am I feeling? What is the purpose of what I'm doing? It's not only for podcasting, but for every other area of my life is taking the time to step back and ask myself these questions and honoring the responses that come either from what I feel inside or from other people, and that it's okay. There's no right or wrong. Yeah. Because for the longest time, Yuri, I questioned everything in terms of, how is this gonna look to these people? What are these people going to think of me if I say this? Is this the wrong thing to say? Is this the right thing to say? It was a constant overthinking, because I'm all about deep thinking. I'm all about reevaluating and that kind of thing. But I think, again, the perspective, the mindset, the approach with it makes all the difference. Mm-hmm. So that's what's helped me the most, is asking myself some questions about and taking some time to reflect on the answers and whatever decision I go through with the podcasting, with everything else. It's okay. If I make a mistake, it's okay. I'm going to continue making mistakes. Before it was like, oh my gosh, if I make a mistake, this is going to happen. And oh my goodness, I'm such a bad person. It was so self-deprecating. So that, I think, for me has been priceless, because it's eliminated a lot of emotional turmoil, So, yeah, I really appreciate that question.
Yeah. With everything that you're working on, how do you manage your time and focus throughout the day? Like, do you have certain times a day where you're working on certain projects? Do you have a routine that you follow? Or how do you do that?
Well, dance and yoga definitely help. And so does a lot of self-care, which before I felt very guilty about, really helps get my mind in the right perspective. Also, when I am working, I do try and take breaks. So I use it's called a tomato timer. There's lots of different variations, Pomodoro, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so I focus for blocks of time. And then when I break for a few minutes or 15, 20 minutes, I really try to focus. I'm not perfect at it, but that's really how, if I stay focused, that I have certain blocks of time. I don't have a total set routine, except for when it comes to my physical activity, and then also with the meditation and reading and that kind of thing. But I think that preparation time is what really helps me to stay focused, and also being attuned to when I get ideas with content for podcasting or for whatever business projects I'm working on. So I'm always making sure that I have something to record something. Because I found before that, oh yeah, I'll remember next time. I'll remember it later because I have a good memory. No, I don't. Otherwise, I would have remembered, right? So you have to write it down somewhere, whether it's in your computer or on a notebook or whatever. But being very cognizant that all these things coming in, pay attention, write them down. And also that different phases, like in the last couple of years, I've had to change a lot of things because of different phases of my fitness and that kind of thing, and going through that. And I had to be okay with that, because before I would think, okay, I have this figured out. This is set. Okay, we're not going to veer away from this because I have it figured out. And then something changes, and then I get frustrated like, oh, wait, I thought I had this figured out. But now I'm definitely more go with the flow. Things require change is going to be inevitable. And in order to get to another level, you have to change things up. And that's just the nature of life, nature of business. And if you want to grow, you have to. And I've had to come to that realization to remind myself, this is what life is. It's about those ebbs and flows. And it's so elementary and so logical. But for the longest time for me, Yuri, it was not. It was like too many mind games that I put upon myself.
Oh, sure. I get that. With your own work and actually in your own life and the people that you work with, the idea of fear has to come up constantly, especially in the arts world. How do you overcome times when you're apprehensive about something or fearful? And then how do you encourage your clients or even your podcast listeners to embrace what they're afraid of and get past that?
Your timing is so impeccable because I just it's so funny, Yuri. It's funny and it's not because I think you're sensing something because I just talked about this episode I did about 3 ways to embrace fear, one of my past sessions. So the way that I approach it is that if I'm feeling fear, most likely I'm supposed to be doing it because it's a test. And it's something I also refer to, and it has been referred to by many people, called the resistance. So like with this, quite honestly, with this podcast conference, even though I had been before and I'm going again and I've had some other opportunities to speak, I was like, oh gosh, I'm scared. I have to cancel. I cannot do this. Even now, I'm like, not now like when we're talking, but just even as short as a few days ago, I was really starting to feel, gosh, can I do this? I know that I've been doing this, but there's going to be all these influential podcasters and they're way ahead of me. And, all these things that come into your head and you're comparing. So that's when I know when this stuff comes up and it still does. Okay, I got to do it. It's really like for me, just that when I feel that right away, it's okay. I got to force myself. And it's basically just recognizing the feelings of the fear, forcing myself to go through the process. And it happens with me in dance class when I'm with professional dancers that are more advanced in their technique. And I'm probably, I hate to say the worst, but like not so advanced because I take different levels of classes. Even going to the class, I'm like, I'm going to turn around. I don't want to I'll take an easier class. No, that's when I know. Okay, gotta just drive there and step in there. And I'm always so glad, even when I'm frustrated, I'm so glad that I did because, again, I would have regretted. And that the question, again, I asked myself, if I don't go, am I going to feel relieved or am I going to feel unhappy or regretful? And so it's assessing. That's how I get through that is I assess how am I going to feel afterwards? Okay, if I feel I'm going to regret it, I'm going to go do it. Even if it means I fall on my face, I'm the worst dancer in the class. Even if there's people there that I don't know, and it's an unfamiliar situation, which parts of this podcast conference it's going to be because there's going to be new people there and new speakers and that kind of thing, then that means I need to do it. And that's how I encourage the people that I talk to too, and also on the podcast is you don't want to have any regrets. I've had way too many for the last 20 years when I gave up the thing that I love the most, way too many. And so I'm trying to save people time and heartache. So that's how I approach it.
Okay, excellent. So with everything then you've done and worked through, what would you say is the best advice you've ever received?
That I have everything within me to succeed already. I'm not an accident, and I wasn't created to fail. And that took a long time for me to realize that those things are already within me and within everybody that is walking this planet. And it's just a matter of finding what's already awesome in there and having that come out.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great and very profound. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. So, Annett, thank you for taking the time to chat with me. I really appreciate it. If the listeners would like to see more about what you're working on and listen to your podcast, what is the best way they can find you and find it?
They can find me at AnnettBone.com. That's ANNETTBONE. There's no E at the end of my name, .com. There's an end at bone, just like the bones that hold up your body, right? So that's easy. And I'm on social media as Annett Bone. And then the podcast is called The DancePreneuring